Did you guys come up with a opening?
No.
Okay. Welcome to 6-Minute Increments, where we look at exploring the intersection between law and business and bring to you the perspective from actual practicing attorneys. My name is Brett Farrow.
I'm Beth Cordello.
And we are here with 6-Minute Increments to bring the first part of a series, actually talking to young lawyers that we work with, because as I've given presentations to small business owners, I actually think that one of the things that they fail to do is develop an understanding of what motivates young lawyers to actually get into the practice of law. So with that, we have with us here, what's your name, sir?
My name is Joseph Caputo. I'm one of the attorneys at Polano and Farrow as well.
So, Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up? What made you want to go to law school?
So I'm from Long Island originally. Corning, New York is kind of where I grew up at. I went to school locally in Binghamton and then law school on Long Island. Moved up to the Rochester area last year or so. Kind of got admitted to practice in the last year as well, coming up on about a year of practice now. I've always been interested in the practice of law. It was always kind of something that I had been intrigued by. I think that the way that I like to frame the way I think through problems was very conducive to law school and towards becoming a practicing attorney. So that was kind of what led me down this path, is just kind of the way that I work through problems. And then took a couple years off and applied to a few law schools, found a good scholarship, and kind of followed the path from there.
But why exactly, what made you interested in going into the practice of law? And is it everything that you expected it would be now that you're actually doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I was continued to be pushed along the way. So a lot of, I had some moments where I was maybe second guessing it and kind of thinking maybe I was looking for a new path. So I had family and loved ones that continued to kind of push me down the road and say, this might be the right path for you. I find that working towards towards common goals through complex scenarios like law, like through the law and through, the different elements of legal practice. We do a lot of contract negotiation in what I do. I handle a lot of real estate stuff. So I think kind of the collaborative nature of that is, complex and collaborative nature of that is kind of what made me continue to follow this path. Is it everything I thought it was cracked up to be? Maybe not. It's a little bit different than what I thought from law school. From before law school through law school to what we actually do in practice is a little bit different. Law school, they focus you a lot on writing briefs and reading cases and, that sort of thing. The actual practice is much more of a collaborative negotiation and a lot more of contract drafting and a lot more of hammering the details that, are important to your client versus what is the other party interested in. Primarily.
I know that you and I have talked, and I know, Beth, you and I have talked over the years. The joke has been that over the years I've tried to talk many people out of going to law school. Yes. Because I've found that the practical realities of what they're doing once they get out is usually very different than what motivated somebody to go to law school or what they anticipated. If you had to say, Joe, one thing that you thought was the most surprising about your practice, your day-to-day life now, what would it be? What was the thing that you couldn't have imagined would be what you were doing now?
So maybe not that I couldn't imagine it, but in the area that I work in, I like to think it's a lot more collaborative. We're two sides looking to reach the same common goal. And it seems that very frequently the other party and the other team that you're working with is trying to hide the ball from you a lot of times.
Right.
And while I get that, you always have to have the interest of your clients at the forefront and always be thinking about that primarily. It would help a lot more if the other attorneys that you were working with had that same goal in mind. If, the end goal was the ultimate goal and the little speed bumps along the way could be overcome through, simple conversations or...
that was a thing I think that you and I have talked about, and I've talked to other young lawyers that was surprising to me. Coming out of law school for me, I was very aware and prepared for what I would say is a contentious negotiation versus the idea of the collaborative aspect. And it does seem that some aspects of law school itself have shifted so that your experience versus, I would say, mine and probably yours, Beth, are fundamentally different in terms of how you were educated, how you were talked to about the practice of law. Would you say that the thing that clients should know about you as you work with them going forward? Because again, I think that clients should spend time getting to know the people that they're trusting and relying on, is that your goal when working with them is to be that collaborative voice, and that's the right expectation to have from you?
Well, I think that, adversarial in nature is part of the profession, but I think that it's important to, so partly yes, partly no. Partly yes in that...
That's a lawyer answer
That's
for
very,
you.
yes, very lawyer.
You learned that part.
Is that, my goal is ultimately their goal as well. Whatever they want to accomplish, if they're trying to sell a home, sell a business, buy a business, whatever project we're getting involved in, their end goal is my end goal as well. The middle ground there and the no is that, you have to be on the lookout for things that your client needs that they might not know they need. You have to be on the lookout for a way to protect your client's interests that they might not even be aware of yet. And that's where a lot of the maybe unexpected adversarial part of it comes in, is that, you raise an issue to your client and say, we think this is a bigger point of negotiation maybe than you've considered. And I think that you should kind of have a larger, say and influence on the, the final form that this is going to take at this stage, versus letting the other side take the lead here and they get what they want, I guess is the...
Joe, I have a question.
Sure.
We call this podcast 6-minute increments because we bill our lives away in 6-minute increments. What are your thoughts on billing your time? What are the struggles you face? Conversations you have with clients about the bills? What are your feelings on that aspect of the practice, which is a much bigger aspect?
They didn't prep you in law school.
They don't
for
prepare
that.
you in law school for that.
No, they certainly don't. It's tough because I think that in a lot of respects, everyone kind of has a little bit of downtime at work, and this profession doesn't really allow for a lot of that downtime. You're always kind of on the clock and always looking to see kind of what you can do to progress your files and progress, your clients as they need, while also trying to mitigate, overuse of time. You want to be sure that you're spending an adequate amount of time, but not too much time where you have to talk to the client afterwards and say, well, I did a really, really deep dive on this one aspect of the law for you. And they're like, well, I don't want to pay you to do that. Like,
Right.
why did you do that? Like,
It's a fine balance
So you have
between
to find exactly
knowing the answer and realizing the amount of time that it takes, and then also balancing that against the client's ability to pay for that, and having those difficult conversations with the client. Is there anything else, Joe, that you think we really need to know about you as you start your career and you're getting into the legal profession as a future leader in the legal world? What do you think is the number one takeaway for people about Joe Caputo?
The number one takeaway about Joe Caputo is that I like to always be hand in hand with the client. I like to always try and work towards what they want to work towards. I always try to, keep them well appraised of what we have going on. And, my door is open for them to talk anytime that they want. If they, want to call me, send me an email, I'm available to be spoken to, with the caveat that, we want to make sure that we're getting things done when we talk. We want to make sure that, these aren't just overzealous conversations where we talk about, oh, this hasn't gone the way I wanted, I'm frustrated by this. We want to make sure that we have an end goal in mind, I guess, is the kind of the end game of what I try to do and accomplish.
Well, because we always try to make sure that in 6-minute increments we don't overbill the client.
Yes.
This would technically be triple billing right now.
Yes.
We want to maybe cut this off right here. Say thank you to Joe for participating, and this will be part of an ongoing series as we get our clients and others to actually know what motivates young lawyers to get into the profession. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.